myself, we brought this with us from home. It's magic what we do. It's sacred and big.
There are legends of people born with the gift of making music so true it can pierce the veil between life and death, conjuring spirits from the past and the future.
You've been watching a scene from Sinners, which is the most nominated movie in Oscar history, with 16 nominations. It's the movie I'm going to be rooting for. I might as well give you the spoiler alert. That's the movie that I hope is going to win for Best Picture because it's an amazing film. And recently, a friend asked me, what kind of musical would Sinners make? And my first thought was it probably wouldn't make a musical at all. But then I was doing browsing on the internet and I saw that The Lost Boys is being turned into a Broadway musical. In fact, previews will start next month. And I thought, well, if they can make a musical out of Lost Boys, they sure as heck could make a musical out of Sinners. So my partner, Gary Lamb, and I are going to be discussing that for a few minutes. And we hope it sparks a conversation with you. And we want to know from you whether you think Sinners would make a great musical. What do you look for when you look at a property and make a decision whether it's going to be a good musical? What do you look for?
That's an interesting question because I've kind of always thought that almost any story can be turned into a musical if you can find humor, pathos, all of the things that just make for a good story.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes down to it, when I thought about the movie Sinners, immediately what got me is how much music is already in it.
Yeah.
And how great the era of music is, so that there's so much more that could be done along those lines throughout. Now, dead people singing, that's something that you got to figure out. The other thing in that musical or in that movie was the fact that there's, blood and gore. No problem with that. I think Carrie had a little bit of blood and gore in it.
That was known as the biggest flop of all time, however. At least when it originally opened on Broadway. It's had a few revivals since then that have been more successful.
And it became a smaller theater, big show, sort of. Some of the smaller theaters have had hits with that show. I, of course, never saw Carrie, so I can't really say. I'm going off the movie.
I've been thinking, well, first of all, I mean, Gothic horror is definitely a genre that, Phantom of the Opera, right? So it's not an incredibly bloody show, but definitely the roots of it are Gothic horror. Jekyll and Hyde, which had a fairly good run. Wildhorn's Dracula did not, but it also has appeared in different places. It hasn't completely died.
I directed a musical version of Dracula up in Bakersfield.
Was that the Wildhorn one?
No, this was written by David Zent, who really pretty good musical writer up there. I've done a couple of his pieces when I was up there. And it was actually really, audiences loved it. I made it super dark. But it's the kind of thing that I think audiences get drawn in, especially kind of knowing the story.
Yeah.
They know what to expect. When I saw Sinners, I had no idea what I was going into.
And I didn't either. A buddy said, well, it's a horror movie. And I'm not a big horror movie guy. So I said, it's a horror movie, but it's getting all of this acclaim. But Sinners is kind of a horror movie, the way Silence of the Lambs was a suspense movie. I mean, some movies just go above their genre.
Transcend.
They transcend their genre. That's the word I was looking for. Thank you.
It's a good one.
It's a good word. So I was, and when I saw it, I was so surprised because, I mean, there's basically 7 minutes or 8 minutes of true horror in that movie.
Yeah, I guess.
In Sinners, I mean, the bloodbath is about. I actually timed it. The bloodbath is about 7-8 minutes long. It's not that much. So, what do you do on stage to replace that, or do you replace that?
Oh no, you gotta have that.
Or does that become a rumble? Does that be, in other words, does that become a dance?
I mean,
does that become
seriously,
something physical?
If you did Night of the Living Dead, you would have to be pulling out the intestines and doing a dance with them around the stage.
Yeah, I know, but I don't think we want to do that.
I never saw.
But maybe you do, but I don't think. Yeah,
I never saw Reanimator the musical, but I heard really good stuff about it. Now that was a small theater musical.
Yeah, I didn't see that. I did see Toxic Avenger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
great. I mean, I enjoyed it. No, I mean, you're right. Anything can be musicalized, and I think Sinners starts with such a strong base musically. But there were a couple of things. Now, this has nothing to do with the story, really, but obviously, the first thing you have to deal with is the casting,
right?
Because Michael B. Jordan plays these twins. But then the question I asked myself is, do they have to be twins? Because it's never a plot point.
Do they have to be identical twins?
Right.
They could be twins.
They could be twins.
And you can find two people who are similar.
Exactly. Dromios.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. I mean,
that's Shakespeare, by the way.
That is Shakespeare. Yeah. Comedy of Errors. But I think it's never a plot point. I kept waiting for it to be
no one
that someone was going to confuse them, but no one ever does.
I mean, I was the only one who was slightly confused. But then I realized, oh, he's this guy, he's that guy.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
But my confusion was that I didn't realize that it was him doing two roles until partway through the film. And when I was like, oh, and now I had to look it up on IMDb to go, wait, it is him doing both roles.
There are so many moments where the emotions are heightened enough to call for singing. I think of the very first moment between the father and Sammy. Wow. That could easily be musicalized within, and again, that's a genre in and of itself. Gospel. They used This Little Light of Mine. If you want to make it a jukebox musical or something, you can do that. But or you could someone could write a new song. Encapsulating that relationship.
Now that's an interesting thing because that is his I want sort of moment.
It is his I want moment, yes.
But to kind of open a show with that is something, I don't know if it's been done, but it might be interesting in a case like this. And by I want, meaning this is what he wants, our lead character wants out of life. Usually it comes, 30 minutes into the show.
Right. Right. Exactly.
But that is kind of cool, especially starting as a duet maybe and turning into something else.
Yes.
With just him.
Yes.
Are we actually? We're not.
No, we're not writing it.
No.
We're absolutely not writing
one has
it.
Asked. No.
No, we are not doing it. But we're just kind of going through as we did with our own show.
Right.
And you look for those times, those elements where a character is ready to sing. And I think that's one of those moments. I think that the relationships, the romantic relationships, would have to be built up a little bit.
Right.
I think Sammy and Perline would have to be built up a bit.
Absolutely.
I think Mary and Stack would have to be built up. And Annie and Smoke. So I think those things would have to be enhanced.
Well, that brings me to another thing about it is tone, because the movie has a tone to it.
It does.
And I love in musicals that there's comedy. Now, there can be in this.
Yeah.
The problem is tone-wise, I don't think you can go with the tongue-in-cheek kind of horror film.
No, I don't think so.
Comedy stuff that happens. You have to go with that realistic comedy. So the characters have to not evolve, but piano player man.
Delta Slim.
Right. He can have some great comedic moments.
Yes.
In dealing with it.
So could Cornbread.
And
before he turned, or even after he's turned. Possibly.
Well, exactly.
And
those are, you have those kind of characters involved in this that can be. Also, I found the scene where, of course, the white people come to the door and want to be invited in.
Well, yes.
Invited in.
Yeah.
I thought that was amazing.
It is. And that kind of triggers another thought in my head musically, because the show doesn't just have the blues genre or the gospel genre. It has this Irish folk
it does a little bit of that
going on. I mean, that river dance moment in, when they're outside, waiting to be invited in. And I don't want to do a spoiler alert, but I'm thinking everyone has seen Sinners by now, but maybe not.
Maybe not. But also, well, go ahead.
Vampires have to be invited in. And as a matter of fact, I don't know how they'll deal with it in the musical, but in the movie The Lost Boys, that became a key issue of inviting one of the vampires in to the house. So that's a thing.
Yeah. Because I hate when that's one of the things I really liked was they didn't make a point out of it, but if you know the genre of the vampires, you know the folklore.
Yes.
So I hate it when a movie dismisses the folklore. They don't make anything of it.
Yeah.
I was actually
they really did. And so those moments, I mean, the moment when Remick comes to the door, I was thinking in my head, that's a musical moment in a sense, because he's making an argument, as bizarre as it may seem, he's making an argument for equality at that moment. He's making an argument for love. The word he keeps using is fellowship. And that was interesting. That makes it very interesting. And the vampires have their own tone and their own voice, and they're not hateful. They're scary, but they're not hateful, because, I mean, unless they're lying, which they could be, and you never quite know in the movie whether they're really talking about love and fellowship or whether they're just as racist as everyone else, who was white in North Carolina.
It all depends what you see. The outcome is. Are they all a happy group dancing together?
Well, they were.
And
they were, yeah. Of course, the one thing in the movie that does bother me,
yes,
is that knowing what's out there, they send everyone off. They send everyone in the club and they say, go. And they send them where they are sure to get turned. And that is the one thing in the movie that bothered me, because you keep them in the house,
but they've already been invited in.
Go. No, it's before that. It's before that, when they're afraid and they say, we don't know if we can protect you, so go.
That's sort of we got to get out of here. thing.
Yeah, it was a week. Yeah,
but it
not
was
a great move.
Okay. It wasn't as bad as like the what was it, a Geico commercial where it's like, oh, we should go to that car over there.
Oh yes, yes. No, it wasn't that bad.
No, I thought
No,
it made sense within the realm of the movie.
It did. It did.
You got it. You started to bring up something that I thought we've been in this for, I don't know, 10 minutes now or something.
Yeah.
You brought up that we have a show that
Yeah, I mean,
is
which is a kind of a horror show. I mean, in a way, yeah,
dark show.
There's horror in it.
And so part of this, and the reason we were asked about Sinners, is because of our show, and that's all. I just wanted to make sure.
No, that's true.
Talked about that. We wrote a show called Forever.
Yeah, based on The Picture of Dorian Gray, which of course is a great Gothic horror story in itself.
Yeah,
and yeah, that balance of trying to find where the darkness, how far the darkness should go, I think, is a very tricky one in these kinds of shows.
Absolutely.
And you make choices and you decide.
Right. And part of the comparison between the two is that we do have some race issues.
And we have race issues as well.
And
yes.
Not Ku Klux Klan, but similar.
Yeah.
Because part of it takes place in the 1960s.
Right, exactly.
We updated it. So now back to Sinners.
Yeah. No, I think that that's all relevant, and of course, because we did that, when I watch something, I'm constantly visualizing it as a musical. I don't know why, but Sinners was just very easy to visualize for me as a musical until the bloodbath, and then I'm not sure how that works. The other thing that's a little tricky.
All right, whoever writes this, because it'll probably happen. The bloodbath, I think, becomes an amazing dance number.
Well, that's what I would lean toward. That's what I would lean toward, because there's already amazing dance in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how many movies, are grounded? You've got the river dance stuff. You've got the great dances in the club. You've got the dance that we showed at the very, very beginning of this, where the past and the future and that present all meet together. I mean, there's so much movement in that. There can be movement at the church. There are so many places where you can have that. One thing, this is kind of minor, but one thing that I was trying to kind of get my hands around are the time frames, the shifting time frames, because it starts as a flashback.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you get past that flashback, then it goes to a flash forward to 1992, actually within the credits.
Oh, you mean at the end?
When it's Buddy Guy
right.
instead of Miles Caton.
Right.
So it's a flash forward. How much of that do you do in a show? I don't know. I'm almost thinking the show becomes more linear, and like that opening scene, rather than being a flashback, tipping it off is more the father and the son, and the son's desire to do music, and then goes away, and then all of these things happen.
So here's the thing: in the movie, there's a narrator,
right?
And I don't think
very briefly, but right.
I don't think you need it.
No, I agree.
So that makes total sense to me that you're following this timeline, and I love that in the credits they do that future thing or present thing, depending on what you're saying, because then we get there after it's ended. So it's kind of a tag that now if you stayed for the credits, and
right.
I feel sorry for anybody who didn't.
Right. Yeah, and there are two. There's one at the very end, too, that's wonderful, and the one kind of in the middle of the credits. And Of course, the other way you could go is you could have the whole thing a flashback from 1992 and start with Old Sammy.
No, I don't think you should do that.
You don't want to tip Old Sammy?
Well, if they know the
That's
movie
true.
anyway. But,
Yeah.
But I just love the idea of following through, and then you have some modern flashes in the dance things.
Yeah.
Because I think that was really great in the sense that we see the history of music in the community, and that really got me a lot.
Well, the other thing is what they say in that flash forward to 1992, that it was the greatest day of my life.
Yeah.
After seeing all of that,
I forgot that part. Yeah.
Because ultimately a little bit like we do in our show, but ultimately they bring it back to the music.
Right.
And the importance of that music and what it meant to them and how it made them feel. And I think, if there's anything in common with our show, it's that. It's the fact that a lot of people live for music. I do to a certain extent. You probably do too, to a certain extent.
To a certain extent.
And a lot of people do. And music is their emotional core. And, that was Sammy's emotional core.
Well,
and Perline's. And I mean, they all in their own way were embracing the music, and the music became so important. And that's one of the reasons why I felt, this has a musical sensibility to it.
Absolutely.
Not easy. It would not be an easy show to do. There are a lot of things that, have to be looked at, but it is if you're out there and, maybe you're looking for your next musical to do, I don't know if you can get the rights, but
well, they might do it
someone
themselves.
may already have them. Yes. I would be shocked, frankly, if someone hasn't already thought of that.
Interesting.
Because, like Color Purple, they've made a pretty darn good musical.
Well,
and
this really opens itself up because of the musical, the genre.
Yes.
And the fact that they are bringing in different styles, even some modern stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we hope we've given you some things to think about. And we're kind of curious, actually. I'm going to ask a couple of questions.
Go for it.
See if we can do this. What is out there, a television show, a movie, whatever, that you think would make a great musical? And maybe why? And then the other is, what movie or television show would you never want to see as a musical? Because there are a few. And actually, there are a few that were turned into musicals that I never really wanted to see as a musical, and probably still don't. But not naming names.
Oh, I was going to make.
Oh, no, you're not. I'm not going to.
Why, were they big hits?
Some were. Yeah. And the other thing, just before we leave, but the other show, and I don't know why, maybe because it's larger than life, but the other kind of tone that this musical could have could be kind of closer to a Hadestown tone, only with more blues and more, because there was a lot of, that opening song, The Road to Hell.
Hey,
in Hadestown.
My daughter loved that show.
Yeah, it's just so rich, and I mean, there's so much room for a very for a score that has a lot of variety to it, and I'd like to see all of that. If I ever saw this on stage, I would hope that I would see all of that, all of those different feelings, with the core being the blues. I think, because that has to be the core. But the Irish and the gospel and great love songs, and I mean, it could be a whole whole thing. So,
And then one more thing that I just thought of, because
Yeah.
you were talking about, you know, whether these were lying, these vampires were lying or not.
yeah.
It made me think about who was definitely lying, and that was our Ku Klux Klan.
Absolutely.
You know, yep,
Absolutely.
here's our place. Don't worry. And then they come together.
Absolutely.
Not expecting.
Yeah. Are those non-singing roles? I'm assuming the Grand Dragon is a non-singing role.
I don't think it's going to be.
Hogwood,
I don't think it's going to be as big of a group of people coming, because
No, right.
because you know that's turns that musical into an unproducible cast size.
And I don't know if you do I don't know how you do the shooting at the end. I'm not sure about that. That seems to take the show to a different place.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure. Do you try to incorporate that into the fight? Do you try to, condense things down? Because that's the other thing in a musical. You always try to condense it down. You always try to take three scenes and turn them into one.
Right, a song
if you
or
can.
a dance or whatever
Exactly.
can bring something together that's a 20-minute scene into a 4-minute dance.
Exactly.
Yeah, interesting.
Well, this was fun.
It was actually.
This was fun. Yeah.
So what I look forward to
Mhm.
is at some point when Forever gets produced, somebody does one of these about why it was a success.
I just wanna rock and roll forever, every night.